Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. I am so excited to be here this morning. My name is Lakeisha Williams. I am the president and CEO of the Vision to Fruition Publishing House. And this morning, I am super excited because I am here with one of my amazing visionary authors to for the launch of his book, his very first book. Um, and also his Amazon bestseller campaign. We're so excited. This project has been a long time coming, and I know he's excited, and I'm very excited to have been able to work with him and his wife on this project. So this morning we are going to be having a conversation about this book, this amazing book that I'm going to share with you all today. We're going to talk a little bit about it. It is called A Strategic Perspective of Servant Leadership. And this morning I'm going to have with me Dr. Johnny Shepherd. But before I bring him on, I just want to share with you the link where you can go and purchase your copy of the book. Again, this morning is his book launch and also his Amazon bestseller campaign. So we need your help. I would like for you to go over to Amazon. I'm going to paste the link in the comments here. So if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to go over to this link and purchase a copy. I have posted it in the links already. It's going to begin scrolling across the bottom of your screen as well. Go over, do me a favor and purchase a copy of the ebook. It's only $2.99. Only $2.99. Nowadays, that's less than a cup of coffee, depending on where you're getting your coffee from. So just go on over, purchase a copy, and then come back and let us know in the comments that you purchased a copy so we can give you a shout out and thank you for grabbing a copy of the book. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on a servant, a father, a husband, a pillar in his community, Dr. Johnny Shepherd.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
Good morning. Good morning. How are you this morning?
I am fantastic. Even though
Good.
the weather may be gloomy outside with a little bit rain, I'm blessed to accept God's presence of just another day.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. Well, congratulations to you on the publication of Strategic Perspective of Servant Leadership. I know that that was a long time coming. How do you feel now being a published author?
Well, I never thought that this day would come because I am an avid, voracious reader, and I'm reading books by John Grisham and all sorts of people. I'm wondering one day, even one of my wife's cousins had showed a book that she'd written to me, and I really never thought it was possible. But somehow God made it possible, and I feel fantastic about the opportunity to display a book to the people of my thoughts and my ideas about a very touching subject that we all need to talk about, not only in the lives of industry, religion, or also just for the people in their own special lives. So, yes, it is an outstanding privilege to say that I am now a published author. It's one of the things that the bucket list on my life that I want to accomplish, and I feel great about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, again, the name of the book is A Strategic Perspective of Servant Leadership. So, without giving them too much, because we want them to go in and purchase a copy, tell us a little bit about um, how the book came about. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, what inspired me to write the book was the when I began to study servant leadership, and I was be able to understand exactly some of the concepts that was so differently, vastly different than traditional way of leadership. I felt that this was a message that people could understand, that being able to step out of themselves and be able to help someone else do just and still become a leader. And the thing that and I often thought that, going through the studies and trying to understand it, because I have a religious background in itself, and one of the prominent people of servant leadership is Jesus Christ himself. And we can always emulate it. I know some people may or may not be religious, but to me, it was one of the foundational ideas that I wanted to come across. And when I came across servant leadership, it really propelled me into doing something. And so in my final druthers of my doctoral studies, I wrote a book. I wrote a manuscript, and I turned that manuscript into a book.
Awesome, awesome. So I know some people may not be as familiar with the term servant leadership, or with the concept of servant leadership, and you'll be able to learn a little bit more by purchasing a copy of this book. Just tell me a little bit about the concept of servant leadership, or where this concept or theory comes from.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the concept was the model of it was from Jesus Christ, but the bring it into the idea about servant leadership to America was brought by Robert Greenleaf. Robert Greenleaf was a person that worked for a company, and he could see some of the problems in management based upon the. We look at the alpha kind of male, a person that's always dominating, a person that if you don't do what I say, it's not right. Servant leadership takes a different complex. It says followers first. The idea is to develop and train and understand people before you ask them to do something. And it's not about because I have power that I want to lead you, it's because that you want to follow the leadership. Servant leadership is a progressive and a passive way of leadership to be able to understand the people first before looking at the task. You don't put the task ahead of the people. And sometimes when we looked at things, even as we see in the Industrial Revolution, people were used as clogs in the giant wheel of things. Servant leadership brings back and puts you, allow you to become in touch with the people again and understand what they want to do and how you can all blend your talents and skills into finding a goal. That goals can be reached by all voices, not just the people at the top, but everyone. So the servant leadership effectively helps you understand that, people are first. You can always set aside yourself. Now, sometimes we get so much involved in the wealth and making money, and that's not really the concept. Money is just a vehicle, a tool. The relationships that we have with people is the defining thing that we had. And Jesus Christ in his relationship with people taught us that the very thing that we have amongst that is love. And without love, we don't have anything. So that's one of the main concepts of servant leadership is the love for other people and to watch them grow and develop and to have a part of it. Because if they grow, you grow.
Absolutely, I love that, and I'm reminded in a couple of things that you said. One thing is of this picture that I believe has circulated around social media is of a wolf pack, and the leader of the wolf pack is actually behind the pack and not in front of the pack. And so I always think about servant leadership is almost a picture of leading from behind, so you can see everybody, you can know what's going on, and you can also lead by example and say you're not following me, I'm following you, so I can keep an eye on what's going on. I'm also
Yeah.
reminded um, of the concept of relationships. I loved how you mentioned that because a lot of us, we are built for relationships. God created us for a relationship. And a lot of times in industry, we forget that. We're so business minded or we're so goal oriented that we forget the relationship piece. And so I'm glad that you mentioned that because that's very important. And it was an undertone throughout your whole book as well. All right.
I would definitely agree with that because sometimes in the world that we live in, people somehow don't understand a relationship. They don't have a fabric of a fiber to maintain a relationship. They just think that a relationship you can do anything that you want. No, that's not. You have a duty to each other to be able to be strong and to lead in a relationship and not necessarily step outside some boundaries and do something in a relationship that you wouldn't want someone to do to you.
I once read a book. I don't recall the author, but the name of it was A Referral of a Lifetime. And it's a book based on a non-traditional business model of relationship first. You build a relationship with your client, and therefore you'll have a referral of a lifetime because they'll always come back to you in business. And so that also reminds me of servant leadership as well. I want to take a moment and say hello to Mr. Brandon Ward. Thank you so much for joining the live stream. He says, congratulations, Dr. Shepherd. You want to respond to him in any way?
Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate your time and energy. You're becoming a very good part of our family, and we welcome you on this particular thing, and we bless you and your family. And all I can say is that hopefully you'll be able to buy a copy and to be able to learn further about where the key points that we have, because we can only give you some points, but I think the book will allow you to take some time and to understand exactly what this presentation is that will filter and better any relationship you have. Thank you, Brandon.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Brandon, for joining the live stream and being a part of this uh, launch today. Again, I just wanted to take a moment and remind you guys to go over to Amazon. The link has been posted. Purchase a copy of the book. This is an amazing book. It's an awesome book. It gives you a different perspective, a strategic perspective, if you will, on servant leadership. Gives you some insight into the life of Dr. Shepherd and some things he's experienced through his perspective and his lens of being a leader and an African-American male as well. So please go over. Again, it's $2.99, less than a cup of coffee, less than a tank of gas, than a gallon of gas, not a tank of gas, but a gallon of gas. And so who is this book for? Like who is your ideal audience, Dr. Shepherd?
Well, sometimes when you talk about leadership, you talk about a broad spectrum of people. But since I am an African American male, I wanted to target a part of our audience of African American males as we begin to navigate this tumultuous life in America. They become an African American, and all the things that we have that are hindrances to marginalize us and do something to that particular audience. But I understood after I started writing it that it is expand to more than just that. It could be something that someone can look at in industry, nonprofit, even your religious organization, to be able to understand that this book can give you some helpful hints. Although from the African American perspective, this is one to one that I write. But as we know, that perspective becomes universal in the thought of leadership. Leadership guides us many times to anything that we do. We've all been blessed with the leadership of Martin Luther King. We've all been blessed with, Malcolm X, and these people in our lives to help mold my thoughts. Farrakhan and these kind of people all kind of blend together to help my leadership. And my leadership is one that I want to be able to express it to African American males and to anybody, because from working in industry, as long as I worked in the industry for 40 years, and I understood that there's a lot of things about the hierarchy, but no one, in very few situations, did anyone really take the time to understand me. But I did have some managers that do that, but there weren't a lot of them. There were few and far between. So being able to focus upon leadership in itself is a way that this book will help us all develop leaderships, not only into ourselves, but everybody that we ever interact with.
Awesome. So talk a little bit about your experience as a leader in the marketplace, in the workplace, in ministry, in church. But from the perspective of being an African American male, has there been anything else, anything that you've experienced, good or bad, that contributed to the writing of this book?
Of course, the very foundation of my leadership also started in the church. Coming from, I was born in Biloxi, Mississippi. My father was a Navy man. And in fact, he was one of the few men to escape from the USS Arizona. And he had a very traumatic life, and he kept our family in church. So my understanding, the foundations of my ideas of the sheltering And the understanding, the nurturing, and the understanding, the leadership starts first with the church. But I also am playing different sports, even though I didn't play any collegiate sports until I actually got to college. I played a little football. But those particular things and the men that I ran across that were part of my life just in my neighborhood, that I took time to learn from them. We had in my neighborhood, we had a police officer that was there, that every time I ran into some kind of situations with the police, he was there to help coach me. This is not what you want to do. You want to be able to understand that the law works for you, but particularly because you're an African American male, it may work against you, but you can use that to your benefit. So as I went to college, I kept that in mind. How can I use all the experiences that I run across from the people, the teachers, even the environment, even the global complex of things that happen? How can that help mold my idea to make me a better person? Because I want to be the better person that I was the day before. So all these things almost like putting together a giant milkshake, that we're all bubbling these things together. And the one thing that rises to the top is the men that I've met in my life, the church and the organizations, even in industry, that you're there to learn. There's no other purpose there but you to learn as much as you can, and learning is a lifelong process.
Absolutely. I believe that we all should be lifelong learners. There's always something new for us to learn or discover in every day, essentially. And I love how you brought everything together and gave the example of a milkshake. I was thinking along the same lines, but I was actually thinking gumbo. Um,
Okay. That's good too.
that's good too, but it's so important to think about the different people who impacted our lives, the leaders. They might not have had that term leader or servant leader, but we think about the teachers, the coaches, the police officers are the pillars of the community when we were growing up, through elementary, middle, high school, college, and post college studies. We think about those people who so impacted our lives, and a lot of times, if we think hard enough and long enough, we can begin to see some of those attributes of a servant leader in those people that so impacted us, so long ago. So if you can, maybe just one or two, talk about a few attributes of a servant leader, or talk about the attributes that can make someone a servant leader, even if they're not actively calling themselves a servant leader.
Okay. Well, let me just give you my own personal experience in itself. When I was very young, I lived in a town to where there was a certain section that we lived. Even though I was raised with 12 brothers and sisters, and my dad remarried, and my new mother had five. She had five daughters, and my dad had six children. But one day I can remember so vividly in my mind that a gentleman, a young guy, it looks like he was down on his luck. He almost looked like he was homeless. He knocked on our door and he asked for something to eat. My sisters pushed him away, threw him away. But in my heart of my heart, I felt that there was something else that I could do for this guy. Even though we didn't have much, we had 12 brothers and sisters. We had 14 people living in one house, actually, seven women with one bathroom. So you know that had to be a challenge in itself. I ran and I got this guy, and I grabbed him by the hand and I brought him into the back of our house, into the kitchen, and I made him a little nap snack that he could take with him, and gave him something to eat. And to me, I think servant leadership starts inside of your heart, that you have some compassion to understand, what it is to be someone else. It's almost like empathy, that I can empathize, even though I may not have been a homeless person, but I could feel that the torment that he was going through. And all it took was just a little kindness from me. And I think the kindness is one of the things that servant leadership has, when we step forth and be kind to each other and understand exactly that we all go through things. And sometimes we are the ones that can help that person have a good day. And that has always stayed in my mind. I have many situations. Even one of my friends, one of my younger brother's friends, was walking down the street one day with a shotgun in his hand, and he was just mumbling something to himself that I'm going to kill her. I'm going to kill her. And he had found his wife was unfaithful to him, and he was going to go back and what he thought rectify the situation. And to me, I stopped him. You don't really walk upon anybody that has a gun, especially a shotgun, and really want to. But I know it was far more than just me. And I took the time to sit down and talk to him and say, look, that's not the way to do it. You're going to give up the rest of your life, take somebody out here, just think about it again. And from that, he decided to change his idea and take another step. And that's really the thing that we want to see. Servant leadership is one that the relationships, even though we have to boldly and courageously, because you understand courage is something that you do in spite of the fear that you have. And even the fear, I was taught that fear, that nebulizing thing that we fear, if we look at the 4-letter words of fear, to me it means false elements appearing real. Once we overcome that and realize that the fear remains in our mind, then we can overcome that and really seek out and be kind to each other and make these relationships something that's foundational, because our children are watching us all the time. And sometimes when I was brought up, my father was very strict. Not saying that was the best of the way, but it kept me out of trouble. No, we shouldn't be that particular way severe that my family was, because they were once 2 or 3 generations removed from slavery, and that's all they knew. But kindness and understanding is one thing that I think that will help us understand all about what servant leadership is.
Absolutely. I love that. And 3 words that stood out to me were kindness, courage, and care. And I think those are 3 words that take us right back to the top of our conversation, where we talked about the example of servant leadership being Jesus Christ. He was kind to people. Uh, of course, he was courageous, and he took the time to care for people. And sometimes that can be found at the core of servant leadership, just caring for people, and being aware of your surroundings and what's going on, and being able to discern, because that creates a trickle down effect. And so I want to take a quick moment to shout a couple people out. Dr. Shepherd, can you see the screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yes, that's my daughter, Jolena. Thank you, Jolena, for getting up this morning and joining this conversation. I do appreciate it. And as your father, I thank you for helping me on my journey to really publicize a book that I think that we can all take a look at. Thank you, Jolena, again. My love to you.
Thank you so much, Jolena, for joining us this morning and supporting your father. We have one more.
Oh, this is my other daughter, Joy. Hello, Joy. Thank you. Thank you very much for being a part of this momentous occasion for me to offer my book to the world. I hope you can get some of your friends and some of the family to join us and make this such a memorable occasion, because I think the family is the very core of our existence. And true from my heart, I thank both of my daughters for sharing this with me.
Thank you, Joy, for joining and supporting your dad as well. Recently, I was reading a book. It's called God is a Matchmaker. It's by Derek Prince. And there's a section in there that talks about how a male should prepare for marriage. In this section, he talked about leadership and he talked about headship. And it makes me think about how a lot of times for many young men and for men who are husbands and fathers, how that, and I heard you speak about your family and your father, how that example of leadership starts in the home. A lot of times we can pick up many good things from our parents and some things that we probably shouldn't do as well. So can you talk about how any attributes from your father led to the type of leader, husband, and father you became, the good attributes?
Well, I try to be a very observant things. Not only did my father teach me a lot of things, but he taught me a lot of things not to do. The very monumental thing that my dad taught me to do, being a former Navy person, he used to get us up early in the morning. He said, always said, the early bird catches the worm. I never really understood that to see until I started to get up early in the morning. And when you get up early in the morning, the outside is fresh. There's hardly any people out running around. So anything that you have time to prepare for whatever it is. So that's the one thing that my father really kind of emphasized to us, because he says that when I get up to go to work in the morning, everybody in the whole house gets up. Even though we cleaned the house before we went to bed, we had to clean it again. And also my dad taught me to be able to go into any particular job, anything that you're assigned to do, be the very best that you can. That's all it takes, best that you can. Even if you have to clean urinals, or if you're speaking to a congregation of people, be the very best that you can, because that is one opportunity that will never come again. And he told us that first impressions are things that are stay geared in your mind. And your relationships. Now, my father, being married twice, wasn't a very good person relative to establishing relationship with a female. That's something that I had to learn on my own. And one of the things that I did learn, and me and my wife are celebrating over 40 years of marriage, is that communication. Communication in leadership is is another foundational thing, because you don't have to go and try to read what somebody says, but you have to talk those things out and be able to understand from their perspective. Many times, as I saw my mother and my father coming up, I would see a lot of times that my dad would listen to my mom, but I know he wasn't really listening to her, but he was being courteous. So what I learned in my own relationship, not only do you have to be courteous, but you really have to take time and understand what your wife or what your partner is saying to you. And that way you can respond in a way that they like, instead of one that you think they like. And so from that, and I think even though you see a lot of examples of different relationships in your life, and we've come to in this time period that everything is so quick. If something doesn't work, we want to destroy it and move on. No, nothing that's any good is quick. Anything that's going to last you even takes time to gel and to mold together. So if I've learned that if you want something quick, you don't want a steady relationship, because it's going to take time. And you have to be strong enough to endure those challenges, because the one thing that we have when we see the challenges in life, those are not negative challenges. Those are things that help you grow. The growth is in your challenges, also in your accomplishments. So in that, it taught me a little bit about being a father, being able to understand, because I had visions of Venus and Serena like Mr. Williams, but my daughters didn't take that. They didn't take that way. But at least I try to place to them another alternative to what they can do. And the only thing that I could do is just support whatever they want to do and love them in the way that they were.
Awesome, awesome. I think you segued perfectly into a quote that I wanted to read from your book really quickly. This is from, let me pull it up here. This is from the chapter about the servant leadership attributes. And as I was reading through the book, this piece, this is one of the quotes, or one of the sections that really jumped out to me, and I think you just kind of summed it up. And that's nobody but God for things to flow along the way that they are. But it was a perfect segue into this particular quote. The concept of servant leadership has been noted for centuries in the life of Jesus Christ, a moral man that gave up his immortality to serve others, and whose only desire was to follow the will of his Father. The empathy of Jesus came solely within his character as a leader, as a part of the Trinity, seeing the creation of the Father in altered directions because of the people's disobedience. Frick postulates that servant leadership is not a shallow, feel-good philosophy, because it calls for radical personal and organizational accountability, deep inner work, and an effort in creating new capacities that counter traditional leadership models. And so what stuck out to me here were the three things that you listed is the personal and organizational accountability, deep inner work, and an effort in creating new capacities that counter traditional leadership methods. And I think that we get so caught up in the traditional and how we've seen things done for so long and for so many years that we forget that there are other models of leadership. And I think that's why this book is also so timeless and will be able to be read for years to come, is because this model of servant leadership is also timeless and it's different. It's a little different from the norm. So talk a little bit about what's next? Where do you see this book going? What plans do you have in reference to the book? Talk a little bit about that. And you can also speak to the quote that I read if you would like.
Okay. The reason, one of the reasons why this is a book now, when I wrote my manuscript, I got such positive kind of reviews from my professors. And my professor came back to me and said, "This is fantastic. I would like for you to just do a PowerPoint presentation, because I think this book can be taught not only to industry, but to religious groups and other people that would take the time to understand that there's an alternative. There's an alternative leadership style that doesn't have one to where you have an autocratical person that's trying to get you to do something that you don't want to do." And that's the very key. Once you develop a relationship with someone and you're leading that they want to do something, that's the greatest power. I'm a person of movies. I really like to write to movies. And there was a movie called Conan the Barbarian. And in the movie, James Earl Jones was a harsh emperor that he had. And he gave an example to Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was Conan. He looked up to the sky and he beckoned a person. As he beckoned that person jumped down. What that told me was that the power that you can have to someone to obediently do something for you without the consequences is not the kind of thing that we want to do. We want to have people that willfully follow you into things that you do, because you're graced with their input and matches your input, and it allows you to grow. And as a further, traditional leadership methods were something to where they use the power of the office to get you what you want to do. And sometimes it doesn't, in our particular, even with the new generations, that people are leaving their jobs quicker. Because when I worked in industry, not saying that that's good, and it wasn't good, that people were there for 30 years. Now that's good and bad. But now people are saying, if you don't really give me an input into leadership, I'm leaving. So after companies put thousands and thousands of dollars into people that they have, all of a sudden they wonder why they leave. They're leaving because you don't try to consciously involve them into the whole network of things, because they feel as if they're a stranger in an organization. We have to go to work. And many times, very few people have I heard in life that enjoy going to work. This is what servant leadership does. It allows you to help people to enjoy going to work, to be able to interact with people that they know, that they trust, that they understand, and they feel that they have their back. One of the things that Nelson Mandela said, and like you said yourself, it's good to lead from the back, and it's also good to lead when there's problems. If there's a problem come up, don't run away from it. You stand behind the people that did it, because failure is another thing in life that we will get the greatest amount of learning from the things that we failed in our accomplishments. So I think that the context of servant leader, marked with traditional leadership, is one that gives us a fresh outlook, that focus, that does not only focus on the task, but it focuses upon the people completing the task.
Absolutely. I love that. My first introduction to servant leadership was a couple years ago. I say a couple, but several years ago, I was introduced to it in a course I was taking at my church. And so it was introduced by one of my former pastors. And so that made me start thinking about leadership in church and what that looks like. Unfortunately, I've been part of a church in the past where the pastor was somewhat of a dictator. And, that is not the type of leadership that I would lean towards or that I would follow. And I've been a part of a church where the pastor was very passive and let a lot of things, pass and slip and not address things or not even be kind or respectful to people. And as of late, I was a part of a church where the pastor exemplified servant leadership. And so I always think about it from the church perspective and then from the work perspective as well. But the one perspective that we often forget about is the people we're leading. And I've been listening to you, and of course, in our prior conversations, servant leaders are other centered. Jesus Christ was other centered. He was concerned about people's souls in their lives. And so I think that is at the root of what you just shared and what you just said. And I like movies too. I really love movies, and I love historical movies. And there's one of my favorite movies is Gladiator with Russell Crowe, and how he kind of led the army that he was in charge of, and he always went first, just to show them this is what we're going to do. But he also stood by them, and he stood behind them. And so, that's one of my favorite movies, and I enjoy it because he is a model leader in that movie. And so I want to take a moment now to remind you guys, first, to thank you for joining us. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your purchases. Thank you for even being a part of this conversation this morning. If there's anyone that is watching us that has any questions for Dr. Shepherd, please leave them in the comments. We would like to give him an opportunity to answer any questions you may have as well. Also, I want to remind you to head over to Amazon. I've posted the link once again in the comment section. Purchase a copy of the book for $2.99. Come back and let us know that you purchased a copy so that we can make sure that this book gets out to everybody it needs to get out to, that it appears in all the searches on Amazon. Anybody who searches for servanthood, for leadership, for anything of the like, we want Dr. Shepherd's book to pop up so that everybody can know about this special type of leadership, this non-traditional type of servant leadership that he has talked about in this book. Mm-hmm. Dr. Shepherd, I want to take a moment and I just want to show people how to walk through purchasing a copy of the book, if that's okay with you.
No problem.
I'm going to put you, actually, I believe that I can keep you on screen. All right, here we go. So you would go to your web browser. You're going to put in the link that we have shared, and it also has been distributed via social media, text, email. You're going to browse to that link. Once you get to that link, this is exactly what you're going to see. You're going to see a copy of the book here. You'll see Kindle listed here. If you are a member of Kindle Unlimited, you'll be able to read a copy of the book for free. That's a monthly subscription. If you are not, the purchase price is $2.99. All you're going to do is click buy now with one click, and then you'll be able to download the book and read it on your Kindle device, on your cell phone, on your tablet. All you would need is to download the Kindle app. It's just as simple as that. Again, you input the link. It'll bring you to this specific page. You click buy now, or if you're a member of Kindle Unlimited, you can click read for free because that's a monthly subscription service that you're already subscribed to. And it's just as simple as that. So again, we encourage you to head over and to purchase your copy. We're going to begin to just wrap up, and I'm going to talk a little bit more with Dr. Shepherd as we are wrapping up about this book. and about how this book has impacted him and how when he was writing it. So, Dr. Shepherd, talk to me about the process of writing this manuscript. Now, I know you wrote it as a part of your program, but how did the concepts that you studied and the things that you read about servant leadership impact you, even now as you are older? What would you say to your younger self, knowing what you know now about servant leadership?
Well, this particular book in studying there at Regent University, um, in my doctoral studies, I came across servant leadership. And it was so it things became so profoundly vivid because I've always been a student of the Bible. I've read the Bible twice from cover to cover when I was going through some traumatic situations in my life. And I'll just take for 1 minute to explore one thing that happened to me in my life that seemed to change the course that led to being able to be more aware, the awareness that one gets from looking at how to step outside of yourself and look at someone else. You don't begin to be bogged down with your own internal problems because you can set them aside and you can go out and see there's people with a lot more issues. I was a part of a new church as I came down to Maryland one time, and I was searching for a church. And one of the things that we talked about that really led to me having some visualization is that the pastor at that time or the pastor assistant says, write your troubles down on a piece of paper and throw it in a bag. And when he did, he said, throw it in a bag, and he shook the bag up. And then he started to come back and start talking to people about some of the problems that they had. And I realized that some of the problems that I thought I had, in no way measure out to some of the problems that people had that they were dealing with. And I thought I was extremely blessed to be able to have a small minute of things that I thought were problems weren't problems when you measure them on the scale of other things. But I was so taken to the servant leadership aspect of it and my studies of studying the Bible about how Jesus was able to be strong enough to talk to people about situations that happened in his life with a kind heart, not with one to where there was arrogance, but there was a feeling that let's work this out because we can. And don't hide something inside your heart and think that there's no solution to it. There's always a solution to it if you're strong enough to put it in the kind of language that someone will accept to you to understand that they trust you. Trusting you in a relationship allows a person to open up. And that's one of the things that servant leadership did for me. It allowed me to open up my heart and speak some things in a kind way instead of, because sometimes when you're approached with something, you want to be able to approach it rashly and strike at someone. Servant leadership teaches you, yes, if you have something to say, but there's always a kinder, gentler way to get your point across, to be able to have input from other people because you're placing them first and you're not only looking at selfishly the things that you have. Like I said, that once we measure some of our problems to other people, we'll find out that we don't really have a problem at all. So that really resonated with me, and I tried to put that to pen to paper to talk about that experience and what I learned from a servant leadership. And hopefully other people will get the same idea, to be able to pull from your experiences and pull it together, and to be able to be kinder and nicer from your heart and not necessarily be driven by something that you don't even know what drives you.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. And it makes me think of how strategic God is and how he just so orchestrates things to work in our favor, or to push us in the direction of greatness, to push us in the direction that he knows we need to go. And if it's okay, I recall when we talked last night, you told me about a story that kind of pushed you in the direction of going to college, which is something you had never considered before. If you don't mind, would you like to share that story really quickly?
Certainly.
Okay.
Certainly. Well, I grew up in a town outside of Philadelphia, and I was growing up. We had a group of guys. It was like 4 or 5 guys in my neighborhood that lived around the street and around the corner, and we got together in ourselves, and we called ourselves the Block Clan. For unity's sake. I mean, we were just thinking about getting together, and we used to do on the weekends. We used to go out and get a runner to go to the liquor store to get us a bottle of liquor, and we had to try to find a runner, and we would drink it and have a great time. We had a great time with each other until we were walking up by a drugstore. When we walked up by a drugstore, we had been drinking. One of my buddies pushed me, and at that time, you always had like a little kind of area to protect you. I had like a little. It was like a little knife that I had in my pocket, and the way that I was pushed, that knife hit this glass window and it shattered it. All of my buddies in that time when I needed some help, they weren't there. They just ran. So I'm standing there, I'm glass all over my body, and I had to make an instant decision. What am I going to do? Because I knew if my father found out, that he was not going to be very nice with me, and they may have what they call give me a whooping. And when you don't want any whoopings from my dad, at least not the ones that I want to recall. But I said to myself, what should I do? I could either go talk to the lady or I could just run away. I decided to go talk to the lady, the owner of the store. I walked up to her and I said, ma'am, I'm really sorry. Me and my buddies, we caused an accident to break your window and it shattered. For a couple of minutes, she just looked at me and she didn't say anything. Then finally, she said to me, don't worry about the glass. I'm worried about what you're going to do with your life. What direction do you have? And I said, lady, right now, only thing I want to do is get this glass off me and not let my dad know that he can take something out on me. She said, don't worry about that. I want to enroll you in a program. It's called Upward Bound. And from that conversation with her, she enrolled me into Upward Bound, and I was able to get into college classes that redirected my life from one that I really didn't know what I wanted to do to something that I wanted to do in college. And I understand that I worked at many times selling different things. So I was a really good businessman, but I really didn't have the idea to make that a lifestyle. But putting me into the Upward Bound program, they were able to work with me and give me some direction that I didn't have at that time. So from that instant decision to run away or stay, I decided to stay and to meet my consequences and to meet those things head on. And the consequence that God gave me was a purely different change in direction of my life to allow me to say right now to you that I become a doctor, which I never really thought that I would have come.
Absolutely. I was grateful that you shared that story with me. And as I thought about it last night, and I thought about it this morning in preparation for this launch and for our conversation today, I begin to realize that that is literally a perfect example of what leadership looks like, what servant leadership looks like, because she took the time to care for you. She took the time to be kind to you. And she also had to be courageous in offering to even enroll you in that program or suggest it to you
Mm-hmm.
because, you could have just been rude to her. You could have ran away with your buddies, but you made a choice and she made a choice. And a lot of times that's what servant leadership boils down to, making a choice. How are you going to treat people? How are you going to lead people? What type of relationship are you going to have with people? And I would even venture as far to say that somewhere in her life, years before you, somebody else showed her that same kindness, that same gratitude, that same second chance, if you will, where she might have made a mistake or done something wrong. But again, just like Jesus Christ is our example, God used her so strategically to orchestrate that opportunity for you. And because you made the choice not to run away, he used her to open that door for you. And so I really enjoy you sharing that story with me. And thank you for sharing that with us today. We want to again direct you to Amazon to purchase a copy of the book. You have about 10 minutes left to grab a copy of A Strategic Perspective of Servant Leadership at the discounted price of $2.99 on Amazon today. You have about 10 minutes left to go and grab a copy. As we are beginning to just close this session and wrap things up, again, I want to say thank you to everyone who has joined us today. Thank you to everyone who's purchased a copy of the book. Thank you, Dr. Shepherd, for entrusting this manuscript to the Vision to Fruition Publishing House and allowing us to be a part of checking off this on your bucket list. I want to give you the opportunity, if there's anybody that you would like to thank, that you would like to shout out. I want to give you that opportunity now.
Okay, of course, I thank my family, my wife especially, Dr. Linda Shepherd, and my two daughters, Joy and Jolena, that have brought so much to my life. And it helped me sometimes when I wasn't very comfortable to deal with because I'm having to write a lot of papers and having to do things and just generally dealing with the things in life. And I want to be able to even thank God for allowing me to put me in this position, which as a child growing up to a family to where we didn't have a lot, sometimes we were going through different tragedies in life, but it would allow me to thank all the people that my life has ever touched, even by saying hello to you and have a good day. But because I really, in my heart of hearts, thank you for giving me the lessons of life, and I was able to extract from you something to carry on that helps me do things like write this book, which I never really thought that I would do. It's only because of the people that after I wrote it, the professors thought it was a really great book. I really didn't have. I thought I was going to have a lot of problems to get it through them, but it wasn't. They liked it, and I wanted to share a part of my life with everybody that my life has touched, from being in the service and from all the colleges and all the jobs that I've been through. All you people mean a lot to me, even as a substitute teacher in the school system. All the children that I run across, I try to reach down, especially the young African American males and children, but I don't segregate between anybody because I know growing up is a journey and you need somebody somewhere along the line to just give you a kind word to make you think that it will be all right. And once again, I thank everybody that my life has ever touched.
We have a really quick shout out here that I want to highlight for you. Can you see the screen, Mr. Sporty Robinson?
Yes, I see Sport Robinson. He is one of the greatest people that I've met in my life. I like his style. I like him. I love his father. I love his family. He is something that he has brought a lot of joy into my life. And just meeting him and being around him is such a fantastic time because he is not a person to faint on words. He will tell you how he feels and everything that I say. And I thank you, Sport, for taking a time out of your busy schedule. I know you're a realtor here and you go to work, and say hello to your beautiful wife and say hello to the family and tell them that I thank them. And I thank you for taking the time to be with me. Bless you.
Thank you again, Mr. Robinson, for joining us this morning. Dr. Shepherd, I want to ask one more shout out here. Miss Felicia Bennett says, I've enjoyed everything that I've heard. Congratulations, John. Thank you so much, Felicia, for joining us this morning. All right.
Hello, Felicia.
Dr. Shepherd, I want to close us out, to give you the floor to close us out in the next couple minutes. I want you to speak specifically. We're not excluding anybody, but I want you to speak specifically as being an African American male. I want you to speak to up and coming African American males who endeavor to be leaders, or who are, in their early adolescence or young adulthood and just figuring things out. I want you to speak to them from your perspective.
Okay. As an African American male, and I like the term African American more so than Black, because in reading one of the books, by reading one of the books by, I think it was Malcolm X, that said, if you look up the word black, it means soiled and dirty. And I speak about that in the book. And if you compare that to white, that means purity. So these are old kind of psychological stereotypes that we have to overcome. I think African American identifies us as African men to a continent that we can realize because our history was taken from them. We really didn't know where our history was. It seems like in America, our history here started with slavery, but it didn't. It started long before that. There were kings and queens that are part of our lives, and you can even see now in the development of African American males how we dominate in the sports and how, given an opportunity to play baseball, to play football, to play all these different things, that we can step up to the plate. But one of the things I say to us is that we have to really respect and love our women, even though they're going through some changes in lifetime, that we see that women are trying to, they become more educated, they become more flexible. We as men, we have to understand we're still the rock and the foundation of a family. Without us, there is no family, because there takes two to create a life. And that life as a father is a gift. Is a gift to you to become a father, because you are the ones that are going to lead someone else that go through some things in life, and you're going to be the example to someone else. So when you make those decisions about going out there and drinking, which there's nothing wrong with it at certain points in your life, but as you become older, you have to leave those things alone and develop something for yourself. And in developing something for yourself, you don't need someone to re-support you. I even heard Prime said that in coming up, he didn't really have someone to visit him at the game. So he had to develop the internal confidence to deal with the things in life and don't worry about what somebody else says. As a man, period, we have things that people look to us to do, look to us to be, and to be strong. And sometimes even to be strong is not something to where you can't cry, you can't let those feelings out, to allow you to grow and become something more, instead of being hard and stagnant and get on a heart attack. Those things that you should be able to communicate as a man as you're growing up, and reach out and find other examples of men in your life, your basketball coach, your football coach, even your next door neighbor, even someone, or just watch people. The greatest thing that you can do as a man is just watch and emulate the role models that you have, because nobody is perfect. There's nobody is perfect. We all have a flaw. The only perfect person that we know in this world is Jesus Christ, and you know what they did to him. So don't think if you're perfect that you're going to be able to be missed. You're not. So I would say, as an African American, that we have a journey that that we can come together, and also as a member of Omega Psi Phi, the Manhood Scholarship Uplift, are some of the things that we're taught, and we want to surround ourselves with other men with like ideas, that we can grow and emulate something that people for years to come becomes part of our legacy. Manhood is something that we want to grasp and be able to accept it. Don't run away from it. Just as I was in my time period, don't want to run away from it. You want to meet it head on. And those things that happen, they happen to you for a reason, to help you grow and to become stronger inside of you. And you don't really need to have someone to tell you who you are, because when you were born, you were a man. And you don't have to need anyone to tell you that you're anything else.
Well, I think that summed it up. Very well. Thank you so much, Dr. Shepherd. We have two last shout outs before we wrap this session up. We have Miss Marsha Robinson. Good morning to you.
Good morning, sis. How you doing today? It's so good that you're a part of this. I feel a lot better now. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We also have Miss Carrie Artis. Please forgive me if I mispronounced your name. Uh, Good morning to you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Carrie. I love it, and the women of the AKAs, I love all of you because my wife is one that has been part of the organization, and I've learned a lot from her and a lot from your organization. And thank you for taking the time. Thank you, Carrie.
Absolutely. So I have so enjoyed this conversation and this time with you this morning, Dr. Shepherd. Um, I encourage everyone to get a copy of this book. It's so many nuggets, so many pieces of Dr. Shepherd in this book, so many pieces of insight and encouragement. I just encourage you to get this book and also share it with others. We're coming up on the holiday season. So after you've purchased your uh, ebook, you can go and purchase a couple hard copies and give them out to the men in your life, your
Mhm.
cousin, your husband, your nephew, your father, your brother, um, you know, even young men on the street that you see that God leads you to pass a copy on. Just grab a couple copies, keep them in your car, keep them in your purse, and give them out as gifts, so we can get this amazing word out about Dr. Shepherd's brand new debut book, A Strategic Perspective of Servant Leadership. Dr. Shepherd, thank you for joining me this morning and having this amazing conversation with me. I wish you well in your future endeavors and everything that is to come from this project. Is there anything you would like to say in closing?
Well, I want to thank you too, Lakeisha, because the relationship that we have developed is one that I cherish. And this is something that I was courageous enough. I've never done this before. Even in introducing a book, I'm doing something that, I'm out of my comfort zone. But I want to build and be more comfortable and do things because this is all because if God said that you are to do something, no man can stop it. And I thank you once again. And I thank the people that have taken the time to listen to what I said. And I would be more thankful if you take your time to buy a book so that you can have a little keepsake and be a part of the legacy of all of our lives. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we are going to leave the purchase link available for the next hour. So that will be until 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes, 12 p.m. is here, Eastern Standard Time. That's correct.
Yes. So we will leave the link open for those who may have joined in a little late. The view link for this live will also remain available on YouTube and on Facebook. So if you may have missed it from the beginning, no worries. You can go back and watch it from the beginning. I also encourage you to share it on your social media platforms again as a way to advertise and get the word out about this amazing project. So, in conclusion, we thank you guys so much for being a part of this. Thank you, Dr. Shepherd, again for entrusting this project to me. It's been a pleasure to work with you and Dr. Linda as well. We can't forget her. Of course, she's going to bring up the rear. And last but certainly not least, she says, "Congratulations, dear." Do you want to say anything to her?
Yes, that is the love of my life. And without her, I would not have been able to do this. She was the one that encouraged me to go back and get my doctorate because of the fact that she wanted to have an idea that we could both be doctors in our household. And I thank her for and the encouragement that she's given me over the years because it was not easy. And I think if things are too easy, you don't really appreciate them much. But I appreciate the love that my wife has given me, Dr. Linda Shepherd, and all the things that we experience and will experience. And she has had eternal blessings from me and from the internal side of all the things that I am.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Dr. Linda Shepherd, for all of your help and assistance and questions. I think you pushed and challenged us both. So thank you again. All righty, everyone. Thank you. I appreciate you. I encourage you to go purchase a copy of the ebook. I encourage you to purchase copies of the paperback to give as gifts and to have one for yourself as well. Dr. Shepherd, thank you. And I pray that you enjoy the rest of your Saturday. And I wish you well in all your endeavors.
I just want to say one shout out that my mother is 93 years old today. And I'm going to go up there and wish her a happy birthday. But thank you.
Absolutely. Happy birthday to her. And that is an amazing milestone. Any birthday, every year, every birthday is a milestone that should be celebrated. And so we wish her a happy birthday as well. Safe travels and going to see her. And we will talk again soon.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.